We are long-term investors, as you said before. The obligations that I have to pensioners run out 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So it's not a question for me of what today's Tesla stock price is.
These long-term Tesla stock investors are accusing the company of mismanagement, and they want Elon to stop spending his time at Twitter, which basically is the same thing as ousting him out of Tesla, because we know Elon is never going to agree with that. Together, they all own over $1.5 billion worth of Tesla stock.
The New York City's 5 pension funds hold over $750 million in Tesla stock. For a long time, we saw it as something that was adding a lot of value, has been adding a lot of value to our portfolio. But we're concerned with the CEO's attention seeming to be focused much more on Twitter and on SpaceX than on Tesla, as it's facing severe challenges in the marketplace, and we need a CEO that's focused on the company.
It is important to point out that Brad is a politician, and he has been called one of the most left-leaning politicians in the city, in New York City, which is already quite left. And you know, this is just Wikipedia, so maybe it's not accurate, so I double checked. I will keep this video about Tesla's stock. I just need to show you what he said so you understand where he is coming from. Back in 2020, he said that he is fighting for a $1 billion cut to the police department in New York City. And this is the kind of person that is leading this push to basically force Elon to spend more time on Tesla. And really, it's not about him spending more time on Tesla, it's about him spending less time at Twitter. And I can understand why he would be opposed to Elon being on Twitter, running Twitter, because, you know, Elon says things like this. Brad has been a politician for about 15 years, and I cannot take him very seriously if he says, yeah, this is nothing to do with Elon being political on Twitter, because I mean, he's been a politician for about 15 years now. And sure, he does represent Tesla shareholders, but just understand this representation comes from a lens of being political. And forcing Elon to not spend time at Twitter is basically the same thing as telling Elon, get out of Tesla. You know, he is not going to abandon Twitter.
How do you think about that position, if you will, versus just saying, I should sell the stock? Meaning, if you don't like what management's doing, don't own the stock. Or are you a long-term holder of this stock, irrespective of who's running it?
Well, pension funds like ours, you know, we own broadly across the economy. And yes, we are long-term holders. We've held the stock for a long period of time. And our way of adding value, we also own at GM and we also own at Ford. We own broadly across the economy. And so what we do as shareholders is try to make sure that the board of directors is providing oversight of management, especially at critical times like this one.
Right.
It is important for me to say, though, that just because he opposes Elon's beliefs, it does not mean he is totally wrong. I think he does have a point. If Elon did spend more time on Tesla, would Tesla be doing better? I think so. But is there anyone who can run Tesla better than Elon, even if Elon is spending a third of his time on Tesla or even less than that? I'm not sure about that. Currently, probably there is no such person. So while he may have a point here, I disagree that we should really discipline Elon Musk here, because it will force him out of Tesla.
What do you make of the argument that New York is a state of Democrats, it's a blue state? Elon Musk has, I think, uniquely come out quite publicly, at least politically, seemingly on the right, or at least on the right on a lot of issues these days, and that this is somehow retribution.
Wow, this is so obvious that even the CNBC anchor is calling him out on this. And remember, CNBC is where you see people like Gordon Johnson go and then not be challenged. A big shout out to the reporter for stepping up and asking this question. Much respect for that.
Look, we don't engage in, he's welcome to engage in politics as much as he wants to engage in politics. What we want at Tesla is a CEO that is focused on running Tesla. Tesla's facing a whole set of challenges as new car makers come into the EV marketplace. You could hear that on the earnings call last week. And just what we're looking for is a CEO whose focus is not on politics, whose focus is not on Twitter, whose focus is not on SpaceX, but whose focus is on delivering good returns.
If he didn't say that he doesn't want Elon to spend any time on SpaceX, but instead spend all of the time on Tesla, You know, I would have thought maybe there is actually some chance, a decent chance perhaps even, that this is not just a political take, that he actually stands by what he says, not just politically, but as a shareholder. This pension fund also owns SpaceX. He contradicted himself here a little bit.
Any stake in SpaceX?
We probably do. We own broadly.
You probably do.
Although I think they do own quite a bit more of Tesla stock than SpaceX. But still, that statement seriously is not really helping them. He shouldn't have mentioned SpaceX.
Do you think there's been a shift? I mean, clearly he took on Twitter, which is a third company onto his watch, or maybe a fourth company, given the Boring Company, and you could add Neuralink, and now you're at 5. But it's not as if the investors in Tesla didn't know that Elon Musk was involved in lots of different businesses and enterprises.
Look, the job of the board is to make sure that the CEO is focused on managing the company. If you don't want to go public, if you don't want to have investors elect your board of directors, if you don't want the model where your board is supposed to hold you accountable to focusing on running your company, you don't have to do an IPO in the first place. But our role as investors is to make sure that the board is providing good oversight. And that's not happening either. Look, his brother's on the board, a couple of his buddies are on the board. They've got to have a model of corporate governance that accords with the kind of company that they're running.
In this case, however, I do think that Elon having more control of the board is actually a good thing. I wouldn't be saying this if Elon's net worth was not mostly inside of Tesla. It is, however. So his financial incentives long-term are very well aligned with those of long-term shareholders. If you are not a long-term shareholder, though, or if you are, let's say, political and you disagree with Elon's point of view, of course, you will not be happy. But if you are a long-term investor, then your financial incentives are well aligned with those of Elon Musk. If only 10% of his net worth was in Tesla, yeah, I would say we need more control of the board, perhaps. We want more independence on the board, but most of his net worth is in Tesla.
As Andrew pointed out, he had all those, he was spread thin already. And maybe Tesla hit some road bumps, but no one's close in terms of having built an EV company like that. So you were fine with, SpaceX, you're fine with, the solar panels, you're fine. We could probably had 10, 12 things, but the minute it becomes Twitter and highly political, now you're going to draw the line.
I think he has a point.
You really can't say, yeah, there's something to that. He's on Tucker Carlson. He went on with Tucker Carlson.
He's making a good point. A point that is almost undoubtedly true, at least to a certain extent. I'm not really familiar with him, but look at the names that have endorsed him. I don't think these are friends of Elon.
That right there you ought to get him off. You ought to get the pension out of there immediately because he went on Fox.
We even own stock in Fox News. So, this is not for us a question of politics. This is a question of us for focus. And I just don't know who could say it looks like Elon Musk's focus at the moment.
So 5 companies is okay, 5 was okay, 6 is not. You can run a company for 5, but you can't.
Well, I think the issue is one.
Look, he could join the board of directors. If he wants to join the board of directors, we're not saying we're not pushing him out of the company. You want a CEO who's focused every day when they're getting up.
That's a pretty good point. Elon ran so many companies already before at the same time. Now it's just one more, although this one, we can visibly see that it is taking some time away from him because we can see him on Twitter, but we can't really see how much time he spends at SpaceX or at the Boring Company or at Neuralink. We don't really see these things, but Twitter is extremely public, and that is one reason why some investors are not feeling great about it. And as far as owning a news network that opposes your views, wouldn't it be amazing if you were a politician and you could own or control a news network that is directly opposed to you? Wouldn't that be awesome? So that argument I don't really buy. They probably don't own that much of that network, but they don't own in relative terms that much of Tesla stock either, and yet he's able to make all of this noise.
I'm not going to disagree. Of course you want a CEO who's focused. I think the issue that people look at in this context is they say, you know what, when this stock was quote unquote working, and by the way, depending on when you got in, it is still working. If you got in later, it's not working.
Lately, I have been seeing people saying, oh, this is over for Tesla. There's no way that Tesla is going to be doing fine. It has been a total and complete disaster that Tesla has returned 729% almost in the last 5 years. The only way you are not happy with Tesla stock is if you have not owned it for a long time. If you owned it for many years, you know Tesla goes through some wild ups and downs, and this is no different. However, we do have more people owning Tesla stock, and by definition, more people overall are more short-term thinkers than long-term thinkers, so therefore we get really upset if the stock is down short-term, and these voices are now louder and there are more of them. But if you bought Tesla stock at the top and now you are down a lot, I feel your pain. When I bought Tesla stock in 2019, my Tesla stock went down about 50%. That was not a great feeling. So I understand if that's you. But if you had conviction in full self-driving earlier, for example, in the beginning of 2022, it's really no different than before, when Elon did not deliver on his promise or supposed promise to deliver full self-driving. Now, I believe Tesla is much closer to solving full self-driving than a year ago because, you know, Tesla has been making progress, Tesla has been collecting more data, and the vehicle actually drives much better by itself. And at this current valuation, there is also so much upside in the EV business, in the energy storage business, and even, although this one is a long shot, Dojo.
Did you think that everybody was happy when this was like $1 trillion company, but the question, and you might have thought that he was more focused or less focused then, but did you think that was the right valuation then?
We're long-term investors, as you said before. The obligations that I have to pensioners run out 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So it's not a question for me of what today's Tesla stock price is. I want to see them succeed in the EV marketplace, sell a lot of EVs. Other car companies are going to come into this marketplace, and that's
right.
Good as well. The question is, what sets the company up? For me, the question is, what sets the company up for long-term success? And I believe more independent board oversight.
And a full-time CEO that is focused just on Tesla, says Brad. And that point does make a lot of sense on the surface, but when we dig deeper, who else would you have running Tesla? And by the way, I'm not opposed to having more board members if these board members are actually really competent and are not focused on the short-term performance of Tesla stock. JB Straubel, for example, is joining the Tesla board, and I welcome that very, very much. He knows so much about batteries, and he is a co-founder of Tesla. While I do prefer that Elon does have more control of the Tesla board, I'm not opposed to competent board members joining the board.
Does New York have any stake in SpaceX?
I would have to look. We probably do. We own broadly.
You probably do.
Oregon.
I would bet money that you do through a number of different funds that you're in. So my question then becomes, how do you think about that?
Well, we didn't think about it until now, but now that you asked about it, let me think about it. Here's our answer, which I made up on the fly because, you know, we didn't think about it before. Because I said that Elon should not spend any time on SpaceX, but yet we own SpaceX. So yeah, this is gonna make me look really stupid, but I'm a politician. Looking stupid is part of my job. So let me try to turn it around.
Is it that you think he's too focused on SpaceX? Is it take Twitter out of the mix? Do you want him in Neuralink?
Investor, I guess what I'd say for us is, as an investor, I'm confident that our position in Tesla is a lot bigger than our position in SpaceX. There's also a set of other governance and management challenges that SpaceX has been facing, exposures to risk across the marketplace, both from all that price pressure that's coming in, but also from human rights and labor violations. So this is a group of Tesla investors who are saying, look, we want a CEO there that's focused on that company.
No wonder he got elected. He did a pretty good job turning this question around. But him not knowing exactly how much of SpaceX they own, that shows that he was not prepared for that question. In other words, he clearly has not thought that far through. While the answer was fairly decent, clearly this was somewhat politically motivated. Because otherwise you would have said something like, yeah, we don't mind Elon spending some time at SpaceX because we also own SpaceX, so it would be obviously counter to our interests if he did not spend any time at SpaceX. We want Elon to spend some time at SpaceX, of course, but maybe not as much as at Tesla. So to me, it appears that this person came up with a narrative first and then thought of ways of how to fit that narrative into what he's trying to do, and then ignore the fact that this pension fund owns SpaceX. But because he had a career in politics, he was able to make himself look not that stupid. So if you just listen to him, yeah, it sounded good. But if you actually think it through, it did not sound good at all. He contradicted himself. Although, we can't deny that Elon has been spending probably less time on Tesla. That is a valid point. But tell me, who is better for Tesla than Elon Musk? I don't know of anyone right now. And this is an important message to all Tesla stock investors. My name is Matt Posius. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.